to the Speak Hope Now podcast, and we're in this series called When Mental Health and Life Collide. And so we're going down this path of breaking down different subjects. We've talked about addictions, we've talked about sports. We're now going down this path where we're going to be discussing family. And when mental health and family collide, it can be a very devastating thing for the family unit. It can be devastating for parents. It can be devastating for their children, whether they're elementary age, middle school age, teenage years, or even young adult years. When mental health and the family collides in a negative way, it can be very detrimental and destructive, and it can rip the family apart. Today in this podcast, we're going to look at some different things that family members can do in each and every category there of elementary, middle school, high school, and young adult years to kind of overcome the strife and the conflict that they might be experiencing when mental health collides with their children. And so, again, I'm not an expert. I'm just going to be sharing with you a lot about what I've learned over the years in clinical counseling and meeting with people and hearing their stories and seeing people resolve the problems that they were going through and how they were able to use some specific techniques and strategies in the midst of all the conflict and the strife and the tension to really help their children overcome. And for some, they're just living with the conflict and the strife, yet they're not causing any more conflict and strife. So we're going to break down some of these specific techniques and strategies here in this podcast. And I know that you'll learn a lot about how to overcome those particular situations when mental health rears its ugly head in your particular family. And let me go down the path of just kind of reviewing some things that I've seen families go through. One of those is extreme oppositional defiance. They call it ODD. There's no medications out there for ODD. ODD is in the DSM manual, our diagnostic manual that we use in diagnosing those who are struggling with mental health. And we see a lot of ODD in children and teenagers and even young adults. I think our society today has really exasperated a lot of the oppositional defiance that we see today. When you talk about wokeness in our society, wokeness has really led young people down the path of being defiant towards authority. They believe that they are equals. They believe that no one should be telling them what to do or how to live. And if you do, that's abusive. That's controlling in some form or fashion. And you need to leave them alone. You need to let them do however they feel is right to them. And so, again, we can have that conflict between a parent and a child, and that can cause some major issues and struggles in a family situation. I can think of a lot of different struggles off the top of my head, right? Some of it very minor, be it that it could be the refusal to do maybe some household chores, follow through on homework, maybe go down the path of following through with, simplistic commands or requests, and that child can push back against it. There's greater levels that I've seen in the counseling field that children and even young adults will go down the path of pushing back on their parents when it comes to absolutes, right? Absolutes or morals or specific things that are crucial to keep kids and young adults safe. When it comes to sexuality, when it comes to good moral behavior in life, good character, a lot of children and teens and young adults I've seen will push back and say, to a certain degree, you can't tell me what to do, and I'm going to go down this path of doing this myself. And if I don't see any harm that comes from it for me, I'm going to continue doing it. Well, that can lead someone down a path of some very significant problems. And we see that again in our society today, right? We see looting, we see harm to other children, we see bullying. There seems to be a lack of social skills. And I think that's where ODD really leads young people here in our society. It leads a young person down the path of having some very poor social skills. And again, I've heard a lot of things across the board as to why a young person may get to a place where they are acting that way. And the natural person goes down the path of saying, well, the parents must have caused it. And I laugh at that a lot of the times because not necessarily is it always on the parent. A lot of times it's on the faulty thinking of the child or the teenager or the young adult, and they can't see through the situation to the other side, so to speak, right? I've used this cliche a lot. They can't see the forest through the trees. Meaning they can't see beyond, and they can't see what a parent is trying to share with them and convince them of what is right or what should be done in the particular situation. And so that young person will go down the path of fighting back with them. So it doesn't always fall on the parent. It can. I have seen some parents with some very poor parenting skills, and they needed to go down the path of really understanding how to parent, and they needed to understand the personality of the child that they were raising. And so there can be some techniques and strategies there, but it doesn't always weigh on the shoulders of the parent. Some other things that I've seen that have caused children, teenagers, young people to go down the path of having a lot of ODD and a lot of pushback when it comes to authority is the confusion in our society. All the different messages that are bombarding our children and our teenagers and our young adults can be very confusing. And, here we're battling. It's almost like an internal war, an internal civil war for the hearts and minds and lives of our children. And so we receive all these messages, we receive all these teachings, and we have this education that's pushed upon our young people. And a lot of it's very controversial. And I remember seeing a story of a gentleman in Canada who was dressing as a female, and he was wearing some prosthetics in his upper body area, and it was very difficult to look at and to view. To me personally, I was offended and disgusted by the appearance of this particular man who was doing this. And on top of it all, come to find out that he was teaching in a school in Canada, and this example was put on full display in front of children. And again, that can be very confusing. A child seeing someone like that and seeing someone dressed like that can be very confusing to a child. That would cause them to question, that would cause them to have a little bit more oppositional, defiant behavior, because they've already deemed that kind of behavior is okay. And so they go back to a parent who is not okay with that behavior, and there's a display of oppositional, defiant disorder, where they're telling the parent, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do, whether you like it or not. And there's that extreme pushback. And again, the family can go down the path of having mental health collide with their family, and it could cause major destruction, a major fallout. I did some work with a family that, a child falsely accused a parent and accused them of a heinous crime that they didn't do. all for the case to go straight to the DA's office and the parent to be recused of that particular situation. And the parent is fine, the parent is okay, but it's caused great damage in their family. And the relationships are torn apart. I spoke with someone and they were talking to me about the struggles and the challenges that they were having with their adult child, and how their adult child was very defiant and saying really ridiculous accusations against them because there was a level of conflict in the home over a holiday period of time. And it was just hard to hear this particular person share with me in the restaurant setting about all the struggles that they were dealing with. The only advice that I could give to them about their adult child was, sometimes we have to let them go. Sometimes we have to overlook the issues that are coming up against us, and we have to let them stand alone. If they're coming against us in an aggressive fashion or coming against us in a verbally disgruntled way, we have to let them be on their own and have some distance where we're not getting totally consumed by the situation, but we're able to distance ourselves and find that calmness, find that peace, find that contentment. I know it doesn't always happen, because it's easier said than done, but it's a situation that we do have to go down the path of finding that inner peace to let them go, finding that inner solace to not get caught up in the chaos of the other person's thinking, especially if they have distorted thinking. And you can see distorted thinking right from the get-go. You can see that faulty thinking taking place through the words, through the text messages, through the posts, through their verbal display of opposition towards you. You can see it right from the get-go. And I would encourage you as a parent to not react in the heat of the moment, to take some time, take a couple steps back to think through the situation before you respond. Hear the person out, hear the oppositional defiance, and maybe give it some time. I would say there's certain situations where you probably have to go down the path of reacting in the moment and going down the path of reacting forcefully in the moment to help, to rescue, to save. Not every moment needs someone to go in and rescue and pluck out that person out of that situation or out of that thinking. Sometimes people need to take a couple steps back and think through the situation. I had a teenager that came into the office, and they had a very difficult time hearing some things from their parents. And it was a situation where they were living with a biological mother and a stepfather. And they came in to the office, and that particular teenager came out and stated, I had time to think about what my parents told me, and they told it to me in a very level-headed, very calm way. And I've come to the conclusion that they were right. They had a good plan for me to overcome the situation I was dealing with. That's the kind of conclusion that you want to have. You don't want to have a conclusion where there's more oppositional defiance and more conflict. You don't want to have your teenager come in to a counseling office and say, I'm totally ignoring what my parents say because I don't think they love me. I think they hate me. I don't think they want to be a part of my life. You want to calm down those particular faulty thoughts and get to a place where you can give good feedback, good information that's level-headed, that's calm, that can be received by your child, by your teenager, by your young adult. Those things are difficult to do because there could be moments that could send you down a stage of panic, right? I know some situations where young people have gotten into relationships and they've been destructive relationships. How do you keep from getting panicked about those situations? I think I saw a reel on YouTube, and it was a situation where a young woman went into a veterinarian's hospital with her dog, and she reported that her husband was abusing her, or her boyfriend was abusing her. I don't remember which he was, but they were together. They were living together, and he had a gun on him. And the only way she could escape or get away from him was to convince him that the dog needed treatment at the VA, at the the veterinarian's hospital. And so that showed me that conflict is all around. Toxicity is all around. How do you deal with that situation? What if that young lady was your daughter? How would you deal with that situation? How would you go down the path of healing after the situation is concluded? And I believe that young man that she was with was arrested at that veterinarian's hospital. And, he was put right into custody. They handcuffed him. They took him out. They took his gun, and they rescued her. But again, the parents were not involved in that situation. It was staff, and it was the police that had to step in. And those kinds of situations can really cause us to be panicked. But how does someone get into a situation like that? Well, sometimes I believe it's oppositional defiant disorder, where somebody's going down the path of rebelling against a parent. The parent is not listened to. The parent is trying to help their child make good, wise decisions, and that particular teenager or that young adult will brush them off and not listen to them. You can see a lot of these signs early on. I think I kind of laid out to you some examples in elementary school and middle school where kids are going down the path of not listening to their parents, not listening to authority, brushing off these minor things that parents are trying to have their children do. And then it grows into larger things, right? It can grow into drugs, alcohol, addictions. It can grow into relationship problems and go down the path where you can have legal problems. And those things can be very serious because children who have untreated oppositional defiant disorder, when it comes to counseling, when it comes to family counseling, can go down a path that can be very detrimental for the family. Now, can parents be at fault? Well, sure. Parents can have very harsh parenting skills. Parents can go down the path of going too far with physical discipline. And that's why we have some rules set in place for parents so they can back away from those certain situations. And they can really try to have some other approaches in dealing with their children, dealing with their teenagers, and dealing with their young adults. We've talked a lot in therapy about different approaches that you can utilize for young children and middle-aged school students. We've used like Love and Logic. We've gone down the path of using Magic 1, 2, 3 for elementary students, and even as far up to some younger middle-aged or middle school students. We've taught those skill sets specifically. In future episodes, we'll probably break some of those down, and I'm excited to talk about that with you and excited to share some of the knowledge from Love and Logic and Magic 1, 2, 3 and get some of those resources in your hands. I think, another book that I have here with me today is by James Dobson. He has a ton of resources on raising girls, raising boys. They are powerful resource tools. And this particular book that I have here with me is a book called Leaving Your Legacy. And he gives a lot of great techniques and strategies on how you can leave a legacy for your family and how you can teach absolutes in your home and how you can parent better. So James Dobson is full of wonderful information and strategies. And I would encourage you to pick up as many books as you can that you find helpful for your particular situation. I can think of others that are out there, like Kevin Lehman. He has some great tools for children. I can think of one particular person I received training with, and he was just powerful. His last name is Lance, first name Gregory. And boy, he's put out some really wonderful books. One is The Stranger in Your Home. And he's also done a lot of writing on electronic addiction and how that affects your children. And he gives some great useful tools in his book and helps you come up with some plans and strategies that you can reduce that level of addiction when it comes to video games, when it comes to technology, when it comes to cell phone, computer use in your home. And I see a lot of conflict when it comes to that, and a lot of oppositional defiance when it comes to that as well. And you can check out his book. It's called Hooked, Hooked, and it has a picture of a fish on the front cover with a ginormous hook that's hooking the fish. And it is a really great book for you to refer to. So again, there's tons of resources out there. The Love Languages, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of that book, but Gary Chapman has written a whole series on love languages, one for couples, one for single adults, one for children, one for teens. And you can also go on his website, lovelanguages.com, and you can check out some quizzes that can help you understand your child, your teenager, your young adult a little bit better, and your child, teenager, young adult can understand you a little bit better, because you could take the quiz and you guys can share your love languages with one another, and you could try to meet those love language needs. And it can help reduce oppositional defiance in the home. Once you have that level of understanding, once you understand a person's personality, once you understand what they respond to, it can help you build a better relationship, a deeper relationship with them, where you can overcome oppositional defiance. I hope this was helpful for you in today's podcast called When Mental Health and Family Collide. And so I'm hoping that you can stop that collision by going down the path of taking control, taking this mindset mentality of backing off, thinking through for a little while, creating a plan, having a strategy, and using the techniques to help your family to not collide with mental health. Thanks for watching Speak Hope Now, and you can watch all of our content on the Roku channel. Just search Resurgent Life, check out our logo, and you can see all the content there. We hope to see you soon.